West Turkestan and their great sultans, Tuğrul Bey, Alp Arslan, and Melek Shah, are among the most renowned conquerors and that stand forth in Oriental and in Byzantine history. But by the middle of the 13th century of the Christian era, when Ertuğrul appeared on the battlefield in Asia Minor, the great fabric of Seljukian dominion had been broken up by the assaults of the conquering Mongols, aided by internal corruption and civil strife. The Seljukian Sultan Alauddin reigned in ancient pomp at Konya, the old Iconium, but his effective supremacy extended over a narrow compass compared with this ample sphere, throughout which his predecessors had exacted obedience the Mongols, had rent away the southern and eastern acquisitions at his race. In the center of south of Asia Minor, Otto Seljukian chiefs ruled various territories as independent princes, and the Greek emperors of Constantinople had recovered a considerable portion of the old Roman provinces in the north and east of the peninsula. Amid the general tumult of border warfare and the ever-recurring peril from roving armies of Mongols, which pressed upon Alauddin the settlement and his dominions of loyal chieftain and hardy clan such as Ertuğrul and his followers was a welcome accession of strength, especially as the newcomers were, like the Seljukian Turks, zealous adherents of the Mahometan faith. The crescent was the device that Alauddin bore in his banners. Ertuğrul, as Alauddin vicegerent, assumed the same standard, and it was by Ertuğrul's race that the crescent was made for centuries for the terror of Christendom, as the sign of aggressive Islam and the chosen emblem of the conquering Ottoman power. There was little peace in Ertuğrul's days on the frontier near which he had obtained his first grants of land. Ertuğrul had speedy and frequent opportunities for augmenting his military renown and for gratifying his followers with the spoils of successful forays and assaults. The boldest Turkish adventurers flocked eagerly to the banner of the new and successful chieftain of their race, and Alauddin gladly recognized the value of his feudatory services by fresh honors and marks of confidence and by increased donations of territory. In a battle which Ertuğrul, as Alauddin's lieutenant, fought against a mixed army of Greeks and Mongols between Bursa and Yenişehir, he drew up his troops so as to throw forward upon the enemy a cloud of light cavalry, called Akıncı, thus completely masking the center of the main army, which, as the post of honor, was termed the Sultan's station. Ertuğrul held the center himself at the head of the 444 horsemen, who were his own original followers and whose scimitars and he had won the day for Alaaddin. When they first charged unconsciously in his cause, the system now adopted by Ertuğrul of varying the enemy by collision with a mass of irregular troops, and then pressing him with a reserve of the best soldiers, was for centuries the favorite tactic of the descendants. The battle in which he now employed it was long and obstinate, but in the end of the Turkish chief won a complete victory. Alaaddin on being informed of this achievement of his gallant and skillful vassal, bestowed on him the additional territory of Eskişehir, and in memory of the mode of which Ertuğrul had arrayed his army, Alaaddin gave his principality the name of Sultan Eni, which means Sultan's front. The territory which received that name and still bears it, as one of the sanjaks of minor governments of the Ottoman Empire, is nearly identical with the ancient Phrygia Episetos. It was rich in pasturage, both in its alluvial meadows along its mountain slopes. It contained also many fertile cornlands and vineyards, and the romantic beauty of every part of its thickly wooded and well-watered highlands still attracts the traveler's admiration. Besides, numerous villages it contained in Ertuğrul's time, the strongholds of Karacahisar, Bilecik, İnönü, and others, and the cities or towns of Eskişehir, so celebrated in the history of the Crusades under its old name of Dorilum. Saydegari, Lefke, and Segut, near which is the domed tomb of Ertuğrul, an object still of the deepest veneration to frequent pilgrims from all parts of the Ottoman Empire. Many of the places that have been mentioned were, at the time when Alaaddin, as their titular sovereign, made grant of them to Ertuğrul, held by chieftains who were particularly independent and who little heeded the sovereign transfer of their lands and towns. It was only after long years of warfare carried on by Ertuğrul and his more renowned son Osman that Sultan Eni became the settled possession of their house. Osman, or according to the Oriental orthography, Osman, is regarded as the founder of Ottoman Empire, and it is from him that the Turks who inhabit it call themselves Osmanis. The only national appellation which they recognize. Ertuğrul never professed to act save as the vassal and lieutenant of the Sultan of Aykonomu. But Osman, after the death of the last Alauddin in 1307, waged wars and accumulated dominions as an independent potentate. He had become chief of his race 12 years before, on Ertuğrul's death in 1288. Osman, at his session, was 24 years of age and was already of proved skill as a leader and of tried prowess as a combatant. His early fortunes and exploits are favorite subjects with the Oriental writers, especially his love adventures in wooing and winning the fair Melek Hatun. These legends have probably been colored by the political pens that have recorded them in later years, but it is less improbable that they should be founded on fact than that no similar traditions should have been handed down by the children and followers of the renowned chief as the founder of Ottoman Empire. The Sheikh Edebali, celebrated for his piety and learning, had come while Osman was very young to İtboroni, a village near Eskişehir. Osman used often to visit the holy man out of the respect for his sanctity and learning, and the young prince's visits became still more frequent. After he had one evening accidentally obtained a few of Sheikh's fair daughters, Melek Hatun, a name which means treasure of a woman, Osman confessed his love. But the old man thought that the disparity of station made a marriage imprudent, and refused his consent. Osman sought consolation for his disappointment in the society of his friends and neighbors, to whom he described with a lover's inspiration the beauty of Melek Hatun. He discoursed so eloquently on this theme to the young chief of Eskişehir that the listener fell in love with Melek Hatun upon hearsay, and going to the father, demanded her hand for himself. Edebali refused him also, but fearing his vengeance more than that of Osman, the old man removed from the neighborhood of Eskişehir to a dwelling close to that of Ertuğrul. The chief of Eskişehir now hated Osman as his rival. One day, when Osman and his brother Konur Alp were at the castle of Sernakbar, the lord of İmeni, an armed force suddenly appeared at the gate, led by the chieftain of Eskişehir and his Ali Mikhail of the Piket, beard the great lord of Hirenkia, a fortified city at the foot of the Prignavumpus. They demanded that Osman should be given up to them. But the lord of İmeni refused to commit such a breach of hospitality. While the enemy lingered irresolutely round the castle wall, Osman and his brother seized an advantageous moment for a sudden sally at the head of a few companions. They chased the chief of Eskişehir off the field in disgrace and took Michael of the Picket Beard prisoner. The captive of the captors became staunch friends, and in after times, when Osman reigned as an independent prince, Michael left the Christian for the Muslim creed to join him and was thenceforth one of the strongest supporters of the Ottoman power. Osman had by this encounter at İnönü triumphed over his rival and acquired the valuable friend. But he could not yet gain the maiden of his heart. For two more years the course of his true love ran through refusal and anxiety, until at length old Edebali was touched by the young Prince Constancy, and he interpreted a dream of declaration of heaven in favor of the long-sought marriage.